In this presentation, we will discuss USDA's professional standards in child nutrition programs. Background on professional standards. The regulations in 7 CFR 210.30 and 235.11G establish professional standards for employees who manage and operate the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. The regulations establish minimum hiring standards for new state and local directors of school nutrition programs and annual continuing education and training requirements for state directors and all local school nutrition personnel. The regulations also establish hiring and training standards for state directors of distributing agencies. Directors hired before July 1st, 2015 are exempt from the hiring standards and grandfathered in based on their existing positions. Purpose. Professional standards have a simple goal. They help ensure the success of the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. The standards are: assist state agencies and school food authorities in recruiting, hiring, training, and retaining qualified school nutrition staff. 2. Enhance the image of school nutrition professionals and their influence in the community. And 3. Build skills and empower staff to lead and efficiently operate school nutrition programs. Professional standards. So throughout the rest of this presentation, we will discuss two main sets of requirements for professional standards in child nutrition programs. First, they include minimum hiring requirements, and second, they include continuing education requirements. First, we will discuss applicable hiring requirements. State agency directors of school nutrition programs and state agency directors of distributing agencies in their positions prior to July 1, 2015, as well as SFA directors of the school nutrition program and their positions prior to July 1, 2015, may continue to serve in their existing positions without having to meet the hiring standards. Directors hired on or after July 1, 2015 must meet the hiring standards included in the regulations. Directors hired on or after April 30th, 2019 may use the flexibilities provided by the hiring flexibility under Professional Standards Rule. Hiring requirements for CMP directors. Depending on a candidate's qualifications, the hiring standards for CMP directors require a degree or equivalent educational experience with an academic major or concentration in food and nutrition, food service management, dietetics, family and consumer sciences, nutrition education, culinary arts, business, or a related field. A related field refers to other college majors that would provide an applicant specific knowledge and skills that are relevant for a school nutrition program director. Possible majors would include, but are not limited to, food science, community nutrition and marketing, hospitality management. Note that college and universities may use different names for similar majors. For example, a major may be called food service management at one university and hospitality management at another. The hiring requirements for child nutrition program directors are broken into categories based on the LEA size. The LEA size is based on the October enrollment annually. For LEAs with an enrollment of 2,499 or less, the director must possess 1. A bachelor's degree in any major and state-recognized certificate, or a bachelor's degree in any major and at least 1 year relevant food service experience, or an associate's degree in the same majors and at least 1 year relevant food service experience, or a high school diploma and at least 3 years relevant food service experience. For LEAs with an enrollment between 2,500 and 9,999, the child nutrition director must possess a bachelor's degree in any major and state recognized certificate, or a bachelor's degree in any major and at least 2 years relevant school nutrition experience, or an associate's degree in the same majors and at least 2 years relevant school nutrition experience. For LEAs with an enrollment of 10,000 students or more, the Child Nutrition Program Director must possess a bachelor's degree in any major and state recognized certificate, or a bachelor's degree in any major and at least 5 years relevant school nutrition experience. Hiring flexibility for school nutrition directors. Final rule. For the purpose of hiring standards, the term equivalent educational experience refers to college credits completed by an individual who does not possess a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree. For example, a new director of a school nutrition program in an LEA with an enrollment of 2,499 students or fewer could have at least 60 college credits, which is generally the number of credits required by a college or university to confer an associate's degree. In another example, a new director in an LEA with an enrollment of 10,000 students or more could have at least 120 college credits, which is generally the number of credits required for a bachelor's degree. An SFA must keep documents such as college records that show that the equivalent educational experience supports the hiring decision. The state agency has the flexibility to determine if another substantial education, such as an extensive training program in school nutrition topics from a professional association with credentialing and certification programs, will qualify as equivalent educational experience. For LEAs with an enrollment of 2,499 or fewer students, the final rule requires relevant food service experience rather than school nutrition program experience. Typically, the phrase relevant food service experience refers to work in the food service industry, including but not limited to hospitals, healthcare facilities, nursing homes, restaurants, cafeterias, free meal centers, and university dining services. Examples of skills employees would obtain in the food service industry could include food handling and preparation, food ordering, nutrition education, financial management, and customer service. Typically, the phrase relevant school nutrition program experience refers to previous work experience in the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program, and/or experience in other child nutrition programs. If the latter experience is gained from working in a school, the intent of the professional standards regulation is to ensure that new school nutrition program directors have the knowledge and skills to manage the program as required. The final rule also provides the state agency with discretion to consider documented volunteer or unpaid work as relevant experience for school nutrition program directors in LEAs with 2,499 or less students. These hiring flexibilities apply to directors hired on or after April 30th, 2019, and they are implemented to address hiring challenges faced by small LEAs. Who is the Child Nutrition Program Director? We often find that SFAs are not sure who is considered to be their Child Nutrition Program Director. Generally speaking, the individual who plans, administers, implements, monitors, and evaluates all district-wide aspects of the school nutrition program is considered the Child Nutrition Program Director. If SFA responsibilities are divided into several positions, only the person hired to perform the majority of the nutrition duties must meet the hiring standards. Next, we will discuss the training requirements for child nutrition programs. Professional standards training requirements establish annual training requirements for new state directors of school nutrition programs, new state directors of distributing agencies, exiting state directors of child nutrition programs and/or state directors of distributing agencies, new and existing SFA directors, and all other SFA managers and staff. Annual training requirements. Directors are required to complete 12 hours of training per year. Managers are required to complete 10 hours of training per year. Full-time staff are required to complete 6 hours of training per year. And employees who work less than 20 hours per week are required to complete 4 hours of training each year. Mid-year hires in all categories, those who are hired January 1st or later, are required to complete half of the training requirements for their job type. Therefore, directors would need 6 hours of training, managers would need 5 hours of training, full-time staff would need 3 hours of training, and part-time staff would need 2 hours of training. The annual requirements apply to the 12 months between July 1st and June 30th, as that is how USDA defines the school year. Here is a visual of the training requirements by job category: 12 hours for directors, 10 hours for managers, 6 hours for full-time staff, and 4 hours for part-time staff. The minimum training length can be credited towards continuing education is 15 minutes. Annual requirements. Civil rights training must be completed annually for all child nutrition program staff. When offer versus serve is utilized within an SFA or at a school, offer versus serve training is also required annually. Food safety training for directors. Food safety is a critical aspect of the food service operation that affects all students. 8 hours of food safety training every 5 years is required for program directors. However, having additional staff trained in food safety is always encouraged. The USDA F&S Office of Food Safety offers food safety training and other resources related to safe food handling. ServSafe and the Institute of Child Nutrition's Food Safety in Schools are popular ways that food service directors receive and maintain this required training. What qualifies as training? Allowable training should focus on the day-to-day management and operation of the school nutrition programs. Only training that fosters proper administration and operation of the school nutrition programs count towards the training standards. As a guide, when planning training, use the list of key training areas and topics provided on the link. Back to school training on general topics such as security procedures and building operations do not count towards the annual training standards. Consider these options for job-specific trainings. online courses, structured on-the-job training, in-service training, local school nutrition organization educational events, state agency sponsored trainings, trainings that directors and managers conduct for staff, and college courses with job-specific content. Training must be job-specific and intended to help employees perform their duties. Training needs are best assessed by an employee in consultation with their manager, the SFA director, or the state agency. Employees should always seek guidance from a supervisor before taking a specific training course to meet the professional standards requirements. Again, back-to-school trainings that are not child nutrition program specific do not count towards the annual training hours. The school nutrition program director determines the training standards for the employees based on their job duties in the school nutrition program, regardless of the funds used to support a specific position. The definitions and the regulations for school nutrition program director, manager, and staff do not specify that these positions must be fully or partially supported by the school food service funds. Generally, employee training is also an allowable use of the SFA's school food service funds. However, food service funds or state agency expense funds must not be used to pay for the cost of college credits incurred by an individual to meet the hiring standards. State agencies and SFAs are encouraged to access the free or low-cost training resources listed below. Support staff. The professional standards vary by 3 job categories: directors, managers, and staff. Program staff would generally include individuals such as cooks, cashiers, and others who are involved in the preparation and service of school meals. Individuals who are involved in other program operations, such as eligibility determinations and meal counting and claiming, and support staff who may have an impact on the safety of school meals. However, a person who provides support to, but is not specifically involved in, the operation of the school nutrition program, such as the cleaning custodian, is not required to meet the training standards, even if they are paid using nonprofit food service account funds. The program director or manager must examine the job duties of program staff to determine what job-specific training they need to perform their jobs effectively and in compliance with program regulations. Please refer to the Guide to Professional Standards for School Nutrition Programs for examples of different job categories and how to meet the training needs by category. Office staff members who process free and reduced meal applications or provide other support for school nutrition programs for a short period of time during the school year are not required to meet the annual training standards. However, these individuals should receive adequate training specific to the task they will perform. This situation is different from office staff working on program activities 20 hours or more per week throughout the school year. In that situation, staff must complete 6 hours of annual training. Staff working less than 20 hours per week must complete 4 hours of annual training. If you have a substitute, temporary, or acting staff, and you have questions about how training standards will apply to them, please contact the state agency. Training standards and the Child Nutrition Program Director. Who has to meet the training standards for the program director when the school nutrition manager or other staff member carry out the duties of the director, but another individual holds the title of program director? Job duties and job titles may differ from district to district. If the school nutrition program director duties are performed by the program manager, then both the director and the manager would be responsible for meeting the training standards for the program director. SFAs should discuss unique situations with the state agency to determine the appropriate course of action. So please note that for both the hiring and training standards, those without a director title may be required to meet hiring director standards based on their role and responsibilities within the program. Food service management companies. The SFA director must ensure that the food service management company employees providing services for the school nutrition programs have met the required annual training. Therefore, the SFA must require the food service management company to provide documentation showing the training hours and topics completed by employees. Contracts that do not include this language should be amended to include additional language that reflects compliance with the professional standards requirements. The SFA director may work with the food service management company to identify appropriate training resources, such as those listed at the professional standards website. Where can you find training opportunities? At the USDA Food and Nutrition Services website, they have an online library of available trainings that is updated regularly. You can search by key areas, topics, type of training, and more. The Institute of Child Nutrition offers free trainings both online and in person. You can also download and use its resources for in-service trainings. The Louisiana Department of Education Child Nutrition Services offer monthly trainings on various child nutrition topics throughout the year. Professional organizations are another option for training. Attend local chapter activities and, when possible, participate in state or national meetings. Exhibits at conferences. At the discretion of your state agency, you and your staff may count up to 2 hours of exhibits towards annual training as long as they are relevant to core training topics. Record-keeping requirements. So what are the record-keeping requirements? The SFA is responsible for documenting all staff training. Compliance with training requirements will be evaluated during the administrative review. Training trackers must include the employee name and position, the key area, key topic, and training subject, and the completion date and length of training. The SFA must maintain supporting documentation. This includes sign-in sheets, agendas, and training material. The SFA must also maintain training records for 3 years plus the current school year. Can excess training hours be applied over multiple school years? Yes, as stated in the regulation at 210.30E, at the discretion of the state agency, excess training hours may be applied to the school year directly preceding or directly following the date of the training. This is intended to help provide flexibility while ensuring that the SFA employees receive a reasonable amount of training each school year. Documentation to show completion of training must be available to the state agency for review. On this slide, you can see a screenshot of and a link to USDA's Professional Standards Training Tracker tool. This tool allows employees to be organized under a manager or a director. USDA's Professional Standards Training Tracker Tool 2.0 may be used to document the annual training hours. This free online tool provides great features such as allowing managers to set up an employee roster and enter and edit training records for multiple employees at once. auto-populating school contact information to easily set up profiles, running reports, and a database of trainings to auto-populate training information. The tool provides reminder alerts and email notification of how many hours have been completed and how many hours remain to be completed to fulfill the annual training requirement. A certificate of completion for the manager and all staff can be saved, emailed, and are printed once the annual training requirement is met. The Louisiana Department of Education has partnered with Pennington Biomedical Research Center, who has developed an alternate tool for SFAs to use to document and manage training hours. One benefit of the Louisiana Fit Kids Tracker is that it is very simple to add trainings held at Pennington Biomedical Research Center, as they are all entered into a database once the training has been completed. Alternative training tracking tools such as the one from Louisiana Fit Kids and/or developed tools by the SFAs to keep track of and print reports of training hours must include, at a minimum, the required fields listed in the USDA Professional Standards Training Tracking Tool 2.0. These fields would include items such as the employee information, training hours completed, and the key areas, training topics, and learning objectives as listed in the Professional Standards Learning Objectives and Topics with codes. The Professional Standards Training Needs codes are broken down into 4 key areas. Key Area 1, or the 1000 level codes, are related to nutrition. Key Area 2, or the 2000 area codes, are related to program operations. Key Area 3, or the 3000 level codes, are related to administration. And Key Area 4, or the 4000 level codes, are related to communication and marketing. Professional standards tracking and documentation has been a frequent finding on administrative review. Here is a list of items that you will need to have for the administrative review. A list of school nutrition staff personnel, as well as information to include hire date, position and title, a brief description of responsibilities and duties, and employee status, whether that be full-time, part-time, or substitute, and include an average number of hours worked per week. This will be in addition to the tracking tool you use to show training hours for each employee. Here are some additional resources for professional standards requirements. If you have questions, please contact the Louisiana Department of Education Child Nutrition at 225-342-9661.